This presentation on augmented reality and auditing comes to us from Dr. Harry van Enckevort and Lance Bauerfeind. Harry is Science and Technology Advisor at Assure Quality, which provides food assurance and biosecurity services to the food and primary production sectors worldwide. Lance is an augmented reality, virtual reality specialist with the award-winning software development company, Company X. This presentation will briefly describe the current status of AR systems, the why, user, and customer experiences arising from using AR to deliver an audit program in a pilot trial, and what's coming up in the development of the technology. And with that, take it away, Harry and Lance.
Hello, everyone. My name's Harry van Enckevort, and for the introduction, I look at science and technology across the breadth of Visual Quality's business activities, which include testing, inspection, auditing, training, and biosecurity work.
And hello everyone, I'm Lance Bauerfeind and I am the Senior Consultant for Company X around the AR/VR space, looking primarily at what is happening in the industry within new technologies and how that can be applied into all other industries within the world. Harry.
Thank you. Thank you, Lance. We're increasingly seeing rapid and substantive advances in science and technology. When I look at this space, there seem to be four themes that are in common. And these are what we can do, what can do it, where we can do it, and when and how fast we can do something. It's very much about being online and connected, whether in the field, and I use the term at-line to talk about being in the field, by being in the processing and manufacturing area, which I'm calling inline, and of course, online being online, as you would understand, and as we see in the sort of Industry 4.0 model. But the magic really happens when there's convergence between science and technical advances, and we go past the mechanistic tools of Industry 4.0 and its cyber-physical systems to the fourth industrial revolution and interconnected users, devices, and intelligence. And we build on our increasing ability to handle data, to collect it, to collate it, to curate it, and to crunch it for insights. And the advances in data sciences are giving us new speed in our ability to do this, and to even test threads from seemingly disparate or unrelated data sources through what we're calling artificial intelligence or AI. No doubt you'll be well aware of some of these predictions about what disruption is going to do in our world. In fact, when you look at this, there is nothing new in there from what was being put forward quite a number of years ago. Many of these things are, in fact, realities now, or well advanced, or advancing rapidly, at least. And we've moved from concepts and proofs of concept of these future views to proofs of application and application. And with substantial impacts on their ability to enable new businesses and new business and operating models. While the business units of Visual Quality, the organisation I'm with, look at incremental innovation, the find a better way of doing something, and some of the new products and services innovation, I look out more to Horizon 2 and 3 advances. I look for relevance and potential relevance to our business and what they could mean not only to the business, but our business and operating models in this increasingly rapidly changing future. And to enable and best leverage many of the advances I see, I'm actually joined at the hip by our Chief Digital Officer. There's not too many advances in science and technology these days that don't rely on increasing digital capabilities. And I also rely on our expert partners like Lance and Company X. So today, Lance and I are going to describe the application of a pilot project we ran to investigate the use of augmented reality. And we did that to deliver or trial the delivery of a simple New Zealand regulatory audit program. We also involved the regulator in this pilot, and it transpires that what we were doing complemented the innovation that they were looking at themselves in being able to undertake remote audits. So today, Lance and I thought we would briefly cover what we mean by augmented reality, why we wanted to trial this in a short quality, what we found and learned, and the where to from that, and what one imaginable future could bring to the area. Over to you, Lance.
Thanks, Harry. So what I'd first like to cover off, probably just as a quick primer, if you like, that we do hear a lot of VR, AR, you may have heard of XR, there's MR, and we're all trying to think all these different acronyms. There seems to be a battle in the world to who comes up with the correct way of categorizing this sort of technology. But for the sake of today, let's just say that augmented reality is where we overlay the real world with information from the digital world. And if we keep that as simple as possible, having a look here at the Microsoft mixed reality spectrum, and mixed reality is, I mean, we could debate it could be part of augmented reality and that sort of thing. It's a phrase or a term that Microsoft are trying to capture, if you will. But if we just simply look at the spectrum, that there's the real world, the physical reality, and at the other end, we have the digital reality. So if the digital reality would be VR, where everything is created in 3D programs and it's a completely 3D environment, to the real world. And let's just say that in between those two extremes is augmented reality. And XR is covered by the lot, really. So XR would be the, I believe it means extended reality, and that tends to be a term to try and cover everything from AR, MR, and VR. So there's just the definition for you there to have a quick look at that. I'll just move right along. We have different sorts of examples of that. So we can see we have a tablet there, which would be AR. We have heads-up displays, which again, we would call AR. But moving on, why should we consider wearables? So what you can see here is results from over 200 US companies surveyed in 2015 regarding where they would be looking to use wearables within the next 5 years. So if we're looking at where we are now, we're 4 years down the track, and how are things panning out? But as you can see, scenarios for using wearables in manufacturing, assembly, inspection, and quality assurance, operations and production, training and maintenance, all rates to certain levels. And wearables bring digital transformation to unconnected workers. So the idea of wearables is how can we connect the worker to the digital space. These devices can be designed for long battery life so that they can last a whole shift or a reasonable amount of time. Minimum, some will last 4 hours, some up to 10 hours. So they can be made ruggedized for very difficult environments. The technology can be used with safety glasses and gloves, so your PPE or personal protective equipment. The wearable computers can also help companies overcome the challenge of producing a large amount and variety of content for digital transformation. So these devices can repurpose existing content for training and safety, such as instructional videos, safety checklists, PDFs, and so on. And what we can also see from Oh, I'll just move that back, sorry. Come back to me. There we go. And so what we can see from this diagram is that 49% and 48% expected to be used in inspections and quality assurance, which is really what we're here to talk about today, but also within manufacturing and assembly. And from our own experience, we can see that happening right now as well, where inspections and audits are a very high priority. And in the manufacturing field and assembly, they're also looking to AR as their solution. So what is the size of the prize? So looking at the size of the prize, why wouldn't we want to consider, if not pilot, augmented reality applications for their business, given the scope of the advantages? And what I could say here to these numbers is they do look pretty big, but I do have to say from our own experience of working with companies and also from reports and research that I've come across, that these kind of numbers all tend to be fairly accurate and are what companies are achieving. Harry.
So, the market, the business, and the customer opportunities. Assure Quality as an organisation works at all points of the agri-food supply and value chains. We start pre-farm, pre-production. We have people in the field. We have people in the manufacturing and production, processing sectors, in the operations and distribution and retail. And increasingly, we're connecting to the consumer through Assurance Marks products. Our scope includes some work that I will also call new foods, not just the agri-food. So working with plant proteins, fermentation tank, and insect protein-derived foods and ingredients. And we have a little bit of work in the forestry area as well. We have analytical and other laboratory services, and a number of scientists, engineers, veterinarians. We have people working in offices, people working in home offices. We have external and internal facing training products and needs, altogether about 1,700 people. So when I was thinking about augmented reality, virtual reality, mixed realities, it came to my mind that there were potentially many use cases to assess, not only for our internal operating model, but also our business models for customer benefits. And there was a good case to look at wearable and immersive technologies in general. And also, as we wonder about the future in the world and the old rules and ways of doing things, where these days it's not quite so much about the incremental innovation and the finding better way, but about finding a different way, and finding that different way both in our internal operations and in our business model senses. Lance has already touched on some of the benefits of a wearable computer that augmented reality applications can bring. Additionally, for auditing, I think that there are a number of additional reasons for adopting an AR platform, not only in its role in conducting the audit, but also the sort of end-to-end process, the efficiency in the business operating model, the connectivity to our back-end systems, voice-controlled navigation, menu and response choice selection through an audit program by voice, voice-to-text capabilities and auto-correction, and the ability to operate offline as well as online real-time, what that would do, video and photographic capabilities, compiling and sending off reports, basically being hands-free and having an end-to-end process. So we provided Lance with a brief to look at some of the new wearable technologies that could provide us with the efficiencies in workflows and productivity, something combining the what's needed with what's possible approach to a customer and a business solution. the same time to gather some learnings from the technology and its applications and assess whether there was potential for its wider applications, either related to our conformity assessment body business or our internal operations. Over to you, Lance.
So there's a smorgasbord of devices available on the market, and from this slide here we can see top left is one of the fairly recent Magic Leap devices. Bottom left would be the HoloLens, and there's some other devices like the Meta and that sort of thing as well. But I think it's pretty easy if we watch videos on YouTube and that sort of thing to get a little bit fooled about the capability and the usability of some of these devices. And I think it's always worthwhile remembering that a lot of these devices are still in research mode, and they're still prototypes, or that they're still not where they need to be scalable and to be able to be used and delivered in the field. And other factors that need to be considered is the actual intended use and where it's going to be, the ability for them to perform. For example, the Magic Leap is not ideal for outdoors, so it's really an indoor product. So if you're going into a project wanting to use that particular product, and the Magic Leap is a very good device, don't get me wrong, but it's not necessarily at a stage where it can be used outdoors. So we need other factors we need to consider are around usability. What are the microphones like? You know, if you're working out in an industry or in a factory and there's a lot of noise, can the microphones pick up what you're saying? All of that, those sorts of things. So it really is a case of being fit for purpose. So when we came to our trial, we really quickly narrowed down to fundamentally two devices. So the criteria that we did use must be hands-free and voice-controlled. The development flexibility, which turned out to be quite a big decision to make, because from a development perspective, you know, one of our key influences was that what operating system was being used. And in the AR realm, there are, especially in the wearable AR realm, I should say, that Android is by far the preferred operating system to use. So the question that we asked ourselves was, if the device of choice proves unsuitable, how do we transition to a new device? If we look at the HoloLens, which was one of our selected devices to be chosen between that and what you can see here is the ODG R7. So the HoloLens is a Microsoft product, and so that runs on a version of Windows. So the question there is, if we developed the HoloLens and it proved unsuitable, then what would happen? And what would have happened is that we would have had to completely develop for a new device, which by a very, very high margin would be Android if it wasn't going to be the HoloLens. So we decided, and we chose the R7 as not just for that reason, but it was a very big factor in our decision-making process. And Harry, you next.
So in our pilot, we wanted to assess, and we did this qualitatively, various points of functionality and application. Obviously, we wanted to test the headset, but equally important was, or more important, was the customer and market experience. What was the audit process, the audit and inspection process like? What was the conversation like? And we wanted to do this across multiple customers and different sites. We wanted to compare the speed of using glasses versus the current tablet process. We wanted to assess on and offline capabilities, the opportunity to build in feedback, explore data protection, privacy, and sort of live online concerns. We wanted to think about what would be the impacts on SOPs, standard operating procedures for use health and safety concerns, fatigue, ergonomics. We wanted to understand how best to build an end-to-end process, planning and audit, right through to the audit itself, its closeouts, the reporting, the invoicing, the integration into our back-end IT systems and ensuring that we had the right back-end. So as Lance said, we started with the ODG R7 headset for the reasons he mentioned, and also because of where we thought that the product was going, what the future development was going to be like. And we conducted a number of audits using the R7, but very quickly came to realise that it had limitations because of its weight. Wasn't as comfortable to wear. It had a short battery life relative to the length of some of the audits. There were concerns about the camera and video as well, the requirements to recharge the device. You could wear a battery pack to extend the time, but that created extra weight to carry. It created heat at the forehead where the battery is placed. We also had some issues with the microphone's ability to pick up voice for voice commands and voice to text, particularly in noisy environments. But most of all, the biggest issue was the customer concern that they couldn't see the whites of the eyeballs of our auditors and know when they were being recorded, which made for some significant issues of trust. Over to you, Lance.
So, as you can see here, what our early findings were from these initial trials, and the main takeaway from stage one was that the hands-free workflow was definitely a viable option, but the device chosen was not suitable, and therefore we needed to find another solution. And it was apparent that we had to stay proactive to find a better device, if there is one, and remain flexible in our approach to change when required. And probably I think that would be, especially in the current environment, that is very important that you remain flexible. I mean, we can't necessarily expect something to do everything that we'd want it to, but not to get too tunnel vision going down one particular path. And I say that because we ended up working and selecting the RealWear HNT1, which is as you can see from that image, is a monocular device, which fundamentally means that the screen is actually on the end of the boom arm, and that is what you look through. And initially our thoughts were around, well, if we're talking AR and the overlaying of the real world over the current, reality, the overlaying of graphics, over the current world, then that didn't really seem like what we wanted to achieve. But as we look further into it, if we thought about how were we going to work with this, what is the best way, the most effective way, the most productive way for us to carry out an audit, then being 100% voice control was the ideal. And that meant we're 100% hands-free. And then thinking of being voice controlled, that means, and one of the advantages of that is that we don't have to be staring at a screen on a tablet, on a phone, on a laptop, that we use the screen to glance at to make sure we're at the right place in the audit, that what we've dictated is what we've said. And it really just becomes, the visual side just becomes a backup to the actual use of the voice as our main interface. And interestingly, reading several reports, that it has been reported that the use of voice as an interface between humans and computers by 2024, 2025 will be over 50% usage. So taking that into account, we selected the RealWear HNT1. It also came with added features like the PPE compliance and being intrinsically safe. And intrinsically safe means that it is safe in explosive areas, certified to be safe. So And that can obviously, it is used quite heavily in mining and oil and those sorts of industries. But even if we think within food auditing, that even in bakeries with high amounts of dust particulates in the air, that can also be explosive. And with that said, I think we have a video about to come up now. So if we can get that working.
Next.
So apologies there. We seem to have the voice a little bit behind the actual recording, not meant to be predictive of the outcome of the audit. Anyway, so what did we find generally by using the program, the user using the technology, the user experience, efficiency and productivity gains, tick. Real-time voice input, certainly faster than typing, fewer errors, dictating is easy, accents are not an issue in the voice recognition to text function, as we tested this between different people. Ease of use, again a tick. Once you get used to the augmented reality view of data overlaid on reality, as opposed to focusing on the screen itself. And by focusing on the screen, of course, you're also inhibited being able to use the system while walking. Videographic, photographic, recording capabilities, easy and simple. As you saw, there's some zoom functionality as well. Outdoor use, this particular headset is weatherproof and able to be used outdoors. We did have one piece of negative feedback from one of our potential users, one of our potential auditors, who was concerned about radiation, in inverted commas, emitted by the device, and stated that if it was anything like a cell phone, then she wouldn't be using it. The customer experience was overwhelmingly supportive. It varied from, wow, imagine what we can do together in an audit once you are connected and online. And this person obviously had a level of imagination which we have yet to follow through with and to test just what they're thinking there. The other customer feedback was it's a bit distracting to my workers, you guys working like this, but I guess that changed once it became more commonplace. And the final comment that we should make was one from a customer that said, not in my place until you can assure the privacy of your voice to data communication stream to Microsoft's platform. So once connected and you're able to use and make phone calls to support the audit and inspection process, there was also the concern about how we might balance that against the requirements of sites that have no cell phone policies. Something for us to still think further about. Lance, over to you again.
Thank you. Right, just move on to here. So our next steps. So the next steps are for the pilot that we want to apply this across all audits using a dynamic approach to integrate smoothly with the Assure IT systems. So what you saw in the video was a first iteration, if you like. So there was no heavy effort put on to the user friendliness of the screen necessarily. It was pretty much a replication of a current tablet application. So we have revised now so that the user interface is a lot more friendlier and easier to use and a lot more intuitive. And the audit workflow for the phytosanitary audit, play time steps, we will be working on voice recording for offline scenarios. So if there's no internet, then the idea is that we'll record everything to the device, and then once we have a internet connection, we can then fire everything back to the Assure quality IT systems. One moment. Okay. Harry, I believe you're next.
Yes, so in for Assure quality and our people and customers look to embed augmented reality and wearable computer technologies into our auditing and inspection processes, ensure our back-end digital systems will accommodate additional and more complicated audit programs, whatever this might be, and wherever they are across our business. And to ask questions like, is there a business case to implement augmented reality into our company branding and promotion, for example, so that we can bring this alive both internally and externally? Lance.
Yes, so the future. So one of the major challenges for AR and VR even for that matter, is the form factor of the device. And there's a number of different reasons why the form factors are the way they are. But essentially, the more capability required for the AR glasses, the AR device, then the more bulkier it has to be, because the device needs to be wearable. So therefore, you need to have all the electronics and the computer boards, all that sort of thing is all into on the device, and so therefore we have a bulkier wearable. So the smaller and lighter the device, the less capability it does have. So for the future, we're looking at technologies such as 5G and edge computing, which will change the device form factor and its capabilities. We'll be looking at the advance of voice user interfaces, and if we think of things like Alexa and the Echo Dot from Amazon, that more and more, as I mentioned earlier, that voice will be the interface for humans with computers. And then we have the convergence of artificial intelligence, immersive technologies such as AR and VR, and then the connectivity to the Internet of Things using cloud computing. For what 5G will enable us to do with its high-speed transmission rates is that with edge computing in the cloud, that we can have all the computation done off device, and therefore that means that the wearable itself will be a lot smaller, a lot more comfortable form factor. And this will be crucial, I believe, for the uptake and the future of AR, VR, and those sorts of interactive technologies. Just as an example, and it's only an example to give you an idea, that for 5G, a 5G network can download a full DVD in 4 seconds. And if we think about that amount of data, which from memory is around about 4 gigabytes, so that's a heck of an amount of data that can be delivered very quickly, and that will enable the more advanced, more interactive communications to happen between the AR device and the human. Now the next part, or one of the major challenges, get my place, one moment, here we go. So in a nutshell, AR devices will be used to bring the right information at the right time to the connected worker. So connectivity to the web, the Internet of Things, and cloud computing capability will allow for this greater mobility. So there are always constant improvements being made to current headsets and a focus on light frame glasses, and also with initial work regarding AR tech being built into contact lenses as well. So there is, the contact lens thing is only at its infancy, but if we think about this whole idea of delivering information to the connected worker, contact lenses does seem to be one feasible option for that. So really, around the connected worker, what we're looking to do, as I said, was about bringing the right information when it's needed for work. So that increases productivity and the ability for them to be able to complete the job as they're doing it, not either having to make notes and then typing it in or anything like that. So there's a whole lot of positive aspects to the future using AI, AR, and the Internet of Things. And one last thing that I'd like to mention to you, and which is a vision here. You can see in this image is what is called the Magic Verse, which is the Magic Leap's, if you like, vision for the future. And data layering is the creation of persistent layers of real-time data that are available when you're in a public or even in a private location. So rather than this data being available on a per app basis, it will now be available for all developers who will then be able to write your applications that can plug directly into this information when you actually arrive on scene. And then if you think of happen, it's with the likes of Google Maps, where with their AR mode, you can highlight a business and then information can come up about that business as you're walking down the street. And this is this idea of having information persistently, real time, that is accessible to all people. Harry.
And so we see diverse potential and increasingly powerful systems coming into play to support auditing and inspection processes in the mechanics of these operations or in the operating model. And there are also going to be substantial business model new products and services based on the advances of these digital capabilities, particularly leveraging the increasing capability of the data analytics and advancing AI, as Lance alluded to. Whether this is online at the time, through the device, or its connectivity to the cloud, or post-audit, we're thinking about adding value to a business during and after an audit. And I suppose there'll be a challenge there to how accreditation bodies might leverage the capabilities and outcomes of the advancing technologies there. Lance.
And with that, we'll leave you to read these quotes about the future of voice technologies and the augmented employee. Thanks.
And with that, I thank you from Harry also for watching and listening to us, and the exhortation to go boldly with open minds, open eyes, and open imaginations. Thank you.
And thank you to Dr. Harry Van Enckevort and Lance Bauerfeind for that terrific overview of the nature of augmented reality as it applies to auditing. And that concludes this presentation.